At 3 in the morning, your body is trying to kill you. Core temperature drops to its lowest point. Metabolism slows to a crawl. Heart rate falls. Everything keeping you alive runs at minimum power. Meanwhile, outside air hits its coldest moment of the entire night. This is when homeless people die. Not at midnight when everyone expects it, not at sunrise when help might come. 3 a.m. Yet thousands of people sleeping outside in deadly cold have figured out how to survive this exact window. They're not using shelters or emergency services or anything the system provides. They're using a rule that nobody in mainstream survival training ever talks about. What do they know that the experts don't? Here's the thing about the 3 a.m. rule. It sounds simple. Wake up at 3, move around, stay alive until sunrise. But there's an entire system behind it that separates people who survive winters on the street from people who don't wake up at all. Veterans figured this out through brutal experience, by watching people die in spots that seemed safe, by noticing patterns in who made it and who didn't. This isn't theory, this is survival science written in frozen ground. The first part of the rule is understanding why 3 a.m. is so dangerous. Most people assume cold is constant. If it's 20 degrees at midnight, it's 20 degrees all night. Wrong. Temperature drops continuously after sunset and hits absolute bottom between 3 and 4 in the morning. We're talking 5 to 10 degrees colder than midnight. That might not sound like much until you realize that every degree matters when you're already on the edge. My grandfather used to say, the coldest hour is the one right before the devil gives up. He was talking about farming, but he wasn't wrong about the timing. But external temperature is only half the equation. Here's where things get interesting. Your body has its own clock, and it's working against you. Circadian rhythm drops your core temperature lowest around 3 to 4 a.m. Your metabolism naturally slows down. Heat production decreases by roughly 15 to 20% compared to earlier in the night. So exactly when the outside world is coldest, your internal furnace is running on its lowest setting. It's like your body and the weather coordinated the worst possible timing. Veterans call this the death window. Not dramatic, just accurate. The mathematics of hypothermia explain why this matters so much. Your body fights to maintain 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit at the core. Drop to 95 degrees and you enter mild hypothermia. Confusion starts. Decision-making suffers. Drop to 90 degrees and moderate hypothermia sets in. Shivering becomes violent, then suddenly stops. That's the danger sign. Drop to 85 degrees and severe hypothermia takes over. Heart rhythm becomes erratic. Consciousness fades. The window between perfectly fine and dead is maybe 10 degrees of core temperature. The 3 a.m. alignment of external cold and internal vulnerability can push you across that threshold faster than any other time of night. So what do experienced street survivors actually do? They set alarms. Mental alarms for some, actual phone alarms for others. The rule is simple. Never sleep through 3 a.m. in dangerous cold. Wake up, move, generate heat. Then reassess whether it's safe to sleep again. Sounds crazy to interrupt your own rest when you're exhausted and freezing, but 15 minutes of activity during the death window can carry you through until sunrise. That's not opinion. That's thousands of winters of collective street wisdom. Here's the thing about the movement portion. It's not just about staying awake. Movement generates heat through muscle activity, but the wrong kind of movement will kill you faster than staying still. Veterans know to move slowly and deliberately. Jumping jacks and running in place sound logical, but they make you sweat. And sweating in extreme cold is a death sentence. Moisture against your skin destroys insulation instantly. Wet clothing transfers heat away from your body 25 times faster than dry clothing. People have died from their own exertion because they moved too fast trying to warm up. The trick is gentle, continuous movement. Walking in circles, arm swings, knee lifts, enough to restart your metabolic engine without triggering sweat. My grandmother always said slow and steady keeps you ready. She was talking about cooking, but the principle scales to survival. But movement only gets you halfway there. Here's where the metabolic component kicks in. Experienced survivors eat during the 3 a.m. window, not a full meal, a strategic dose of fat. Peanut butter is legendary in street survival communities. 1 tablespoon contains around 90 calories of pure fat. Your body processes fat through thermogenesis, which basically means digestion generates heat as a byproduct. That tablespoon turns your stomach into a small furnace for the next 4 to 6 hours. Not bad for something that costs pocket change, right? The timing is critical though. Eating right at 3 a.m. means peak heat production hits around 4 to 5 a.m., exactly when you need it most to push through until sunrise. Some veterans eat a small fatty snack before sleeping, specifically timed, so digestion peaks naturally during the death window. Others wake and eat deliberately. Either way, the goal is the same. Match your body's heat production to the environment's coldest moment. Arctic explorers have used this technique for over a century. Military survival schools teach variations of it, and homeless people figured it out independently just by paying attention to what worked and what didn't. Here is what nobody tells you though. There is a checklist that runs during the 3 a.m. wake-up that goes beyond just warming yourself. Veterans use this moment to assess everything. Check your breathing. Is it getting shallow? Check your fingers and toes. Can you still feel them? Check your thinking. Does your brain feel foggy? Check your shivering. Is it still happening? Each of these is an early warning system. Shallow breathing means your body is conserving energy dangerously. Numb extremities mean frostbite is starting. Foggy thinking means hypothermia is affecting your brain. And if shivering stops suddenly, you are in serious trouble. Shivering burns calories to generate heat. When it stops, your body has given up fighting. That is when people die thinking they are finally warming up. Now here's where preparation becomes everything. The 3 a.m. rule actually starts hours before 3 a.m. Veterans set themselves up for success while they're still warm and thinking clearly. They position a fatty snack within arm's reach. They keep a water bottle inside their sleeping layers so it doesn't freeze solid. They arrange their setup so standing up doesn't require fighting through complicated barriers. Some even sleep in a seated position during the most dangerous nights so the transition to movement takes seconds instead of minutes. Every obstacle between you and activity at 3 a.m. is an obstacle that might kill you when your brain is foggy and your body is screaming to stay still. Here's the thing about external heat sources during the death window. Hand warmers become strategic tools rather than comfort items. Those little chemical packets produce heat for 8 to 10 hours, but veterans don't activate them at bedtime. They save them for 3 a.m. Crack one open during the death window and you've got targeted warmth exactly when you need it most. Placement matters too. Forget your hands. Put the warmers against major blood vessels, inner thighs, armpits, stomach. Your blood carries that warmth everywhere, basically turning your circulatory system into a heat distribution network. A $2 hand warmer positioned correctly can raise your core temperature by a degree or more. That might be the degree that keeps you alive. Some veterans take this further with improvised hot water bottles. Fill a metal water bottle with hot water before sleeping. Wrap it in a sock to prevent burns. Tuck it against your core. The bottle releases heat slowly over 4 to 5 hours. Time it right, and it's still warm at 3 a.m. when you need the boost. Gas stations and convenience stores with microwaves become survival infrastructure. Buy a coffee, ask to heat some water, fill your bottle. The transaction costs nothing extra. Most clerks don't care. Pretty clever resource extraction for people supposedly incapable of planning ahead, right? The buddy system transforms the 3 a.m. rule from individual survival to group protocol. Here's the thing about sleeping in groups. You're not just sharing body heat. You're creating a network of human alarm clocks. In established street communities, the 3 a.m. check is a ritual. Someone wakes up first. They shake the person next to them. That person confirms they're okay and shakes the next one. It goes around the circle until everyone has been verified, conscious and responsive. Takes maybe 2 minutes. Saves lives constantly. One body produces 80 to 100 watts of heat. 4 bodies huddled together produce enough warmth to raise ambient temperature in a small space by 15 to 20 degrees. But those bodies have to stay alive to keep producing heat. The chain check ensures nobody slips away quietly in the death window. Here's where things get genuinely interesting. Dogs have become 3 a.m. survival partners for a reason most people don't understand. A medium-sized dog produces around 50 watts of body heat. Their normal temperature runs at 101 degrees Fahrenheit, warmer than any human. But beyond the heat, dogs have something humans don't. They notice when their person is in trouble before the person does. Dogs will lick faces, push closer, bark, refuse to let someone drift into dangerous sleep. Veterans say their dogs have saved their lives by being annoying at 3 a.m., waking them up when their body was too far gone to wake itself. I learned this the hard way, talking to a guy who said his mutt pulled him back from the edge twice in one winter. The dog knew something was wrong when he didn't, made me realize my assumptions about street survival were completely backwards. Speaking of early warning systems, the 3 a.m. rule includes environmental assessment too. Weather changes fastest in the hours before dawn. A wind shift can drop perceived temperature by 10 degrees in minutes. Cloud cover breaking can cause rapid radiational cooling. Snow starting to fall actually raises temperature slightly, but brings moisture that destroys insulation. Experienced survivors step outside their sleeping setup at 3 a.m. and read the sky, check the wind, feel the air, decide if conditions have changed enough to require relocating before dawn. Sometimes the safest choice is abandoning a spot that was fine at midnight but turned dangerous by 3. My grandfather would have called that reading the weather like reading a book. Same skill, different stakes. Here's the catch that trips up newcomers. The 3 a.m. rule requires discipline when you have none left. You're exhausted, you're cold, your body is screaming to stay still and conserve energy. Everything in you wants to burrow deeper and hope for the best. That's exactly the instinct that kills people. The rule works because it forces action when action feels impossible. Veterans describe it as training yourself to distrust comfort in the death window. If you feel warm and cozy at 3 a.m. in dangerous cold, something is wrong. That's probably hypothermia making you confused. The rule creates a habit that overrides your broken judgment. Makes sense why it works, right? Now here's where the medical reality gets uncomfortable. Even people who follow the 3 a.m. rule perfectly accumulate damage over time. Frostbite starts when skin temperature drops below 31 degrees Fahrenheit. On extremely cold nights, that can happen in under 20 minutes on exposed skin. Fingers and toes go first. The body sacrifices extremities to protect the core. Thanks, evolution, but the damage stacks. Nerves that freeze repeatedly eventually stop working entirely. Many long-term street survivors report permanent numbness in their hands and feet. One veteran I heard about couldn't feel anything below his ankles anymore. 12 winters of 3 a.m. survival. His body kept the score even when the rule kept him alive. Roughly, 1,300 Americans die from hypothermia every single year. The majority die between 2 to 5 a.m. Most of them were probably asleep when their core temperature crossed the point of no return. They didn't know about the death window. They didn't have a rule. They trusted their bodies to wake them if something was wrong. But hypothermia doesn't work that way. It makes you feel comfortable right before it kills you. The 3 a.m. rule exists because the alternative is trusting a process specifically designed to trick you into dying peacefully. Here's something else most people overlook completely. The 3 a.m. rule changes based on conditions. In moderate cold, a brief wake-up and position shift might be enough. In severe cold, the full protocol activates with movement, food, buddy check, environmental scan, the works. In extreme cold, some veterans don't sleep at all during the death window. They save their sleep for the warmer hours after sunrise. Adapting the rule to conditions is what separates people with 1 winter of experience from those with 10. The street teaches flexibility that no manual can capture. The psychological component matters too. Here's the thing about surviving repeated 3 a.m. windows. It builds something that comfortable people never develop, a relationship with your own mortality that's strangely practical. Veterans don't fear the death window. They respect it. They prepare for it. They handle it and move on. That mental framework is survival technology just as much as any physical technique. Panic kills people in cold weather. It makes them sweat. It makes them run. It makes them make terrible decisions. The 3 a.m. rule replaces panic with procedure. Something to do instead of something to fear. So what have we learned? The 3 a.m. rule is not just one rule. It's an entire survival system built around the most dangerous moment of every cold night. It's understanding that external temperature and internal biology align to create a death window between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. It's preparation that starts at bedtime with snacks and water bottles positioned for easy access. It's waking up deliberately when your body wants to stay still. It's slow movement that generates heat without triggering sweat. It's strategic fat intake timed to metabolic peaks. It's hand warmers and hot water bottles deployed at the critical moment. It's self-assessment checklists and buddy chains and dogs that know when you're dying. It's reading the weather and adapting protocols to conditions. It's discipline that overrides confused instincts. These aren't just homeless hacks. They're engineering solutions for a biological vulnerability that affects every human being on Earth. The same death window exists for lost hikers and stranded motorists and soldiers in the field. Homeless people just encounter it more often and have refined the countermeasures through necessity. The 3 a.m. rule keeps people alive because it treats survival as a job that requires showing up even when you don't want to, especially when you don't want to. Humans are remarkably creative when survival demands it, and frankly, that's pretty impressive.